Good morning, guys. I got a quick video, a reading from the Water Wizard, page 22, concerning processes of your creation, evolution, and metabolism. So I'm going to read this article. The following section is taken from a special edition of the German quarterly periodical Mensch und Technik, Humanity and Technology in Accordance with Nature, which is devoted entirely to the then recently discovered transcript of a notebook compiled in 1941 by a Swiss Arnold Holl. This not only recorded details of his visits to Victor Schauberger in 1936 and 1937, but included verbatim accounts of Schauberger's contemporary writings, letters, notes, and comments recorded by Hull verbatim. Sorry if I'm saying his name wrong there, and for any mispronunciations through the video. Funded by private subscriptions, Mensch und Technik was first published by a group of scientists calling themselves the Gruppe der Neuen, Group of New Thinkers. Their aim was to explore Victor Schauberger's theories and to interpret them scientifically. Early articles came from a number of contributors, including Victor Schauberger himself, posthumously, and his son Walter. And the article begins. Joking aside, making water is not at all a simple matter, for it requires intuitive understanding. Every drop of water is virgin territory and a source of unlimited power. According to science, horsepower by the thousands exists in every gram of water. Footnote number 9. According to Walter Schauberger, Victor's physicist son, every gram of any substance, 1 cubic centimeter of water for example, contains a stored energy equal to 25 million kilowatt hours. 1 minute. Okay, back to the article. So every gram of, or 1 cubic centimeter contains 25 million kilowatt hours. So, yet dare we take the plunge to extract this energy. This process is of extreme importance, completely natural and therefore simple, for water indeed embodies the unity out of which the immeasurable multiplicity subsequently arises. Water eggs are present in both metal and mineral. They should be produced and allowed to incubate from these substances. A little heat, a little cold, a little light, a little darkness are quite enough to inflame the passions of metal and mineral alike, that they produce a chemically pure water. Once this stage has been reached, the whole begins to grow spontaneously. All it depends on is the proper preparation. The phenomena and process of transmutation, which arise from differences in energy potential and produce water eggs, permeate and animate the remaining substances. Being in a less organized state, the latter would never experience their transformation into an organically higher form of life if they did not actually force the juvenile or virgin water to carry out the purposeful work before their ascension. It is these substances that lift the water up and not the water that raises them. Precisely the reverse takes place in the high atmosphere, where it is the juvenile water, in this case, that forces the very buoyant substances to conduct the water procreated in the atmosphere gently back to earth. In other words, the juvenile water ensures that the heavenly substances imbued with mechanical levative energies are continuously returned to the earth in order to assist other substances to reach higher regions and levels of evolvement. Thus in nature, mechanical pressure and suction are always in in a condition of rhythmical alternation, which is why there is no state of rest in the world, for the relation between pressure and suction is always in a ratio of 2 to 3. This concept is so simple that it requires a certain finesse not to reveal too much, because it would be absolutely no blessing to humanity if with its present attitudes it was suddenly given control over these elemental forces. The most important precondition for the production of water is the angle, for through it the feelings find their expression, such as happens with laughter. Without pulling the angles of the mouth, laughing would be impossible. This angle is a oneness in a monolinear plane, infinite and very similar to infinity. This infinite plane is what we describe as time. All we need to do is to create organic loops. Footnote number 10. Organic loops may perhaps take the form of figure of 8 or be akin to the Mobius strip, which has one face and one edge. All we need to do is create organic loops in order to produce water eggs, and from them the water itself, which on its part then creates the space for nutritive materials. These water eggs are even sometimes visible to the naked eye because we are here concerned with the product of the anomaly point, for water equals plus 4 degrees Celsius, which are incubated with cold instead of heat. One such process of incubation, footnote 11, incubation equals turned into 3 dimensions. Once such a process of incubation has begun, then the heat is dissipated in the water because all processes of growth require heat. This is why rivers that cool themselves as they flow increase their attractive force and carry the knotty stones, which lie so heavily in the stomachs of river regulators, far out to sea and create new land. In the opposite case, they create water deserts. Protein formation. This can appear in many different shapes and sizes. Protein is in the earth in a solid state, in water in a liquid state, and air in a gaseous state. In all cases, these are manifestations of concentration or urcombination. We thus come face to face with the process of urprocreation. Solid, liquid, and gaseous are 3 spatial states. If by means of the appropriate angle we concentrate the ethereal elements or ethnicities, footnote number 12, ethnicity. This term refers to the supernormal, near non-dimensional, energetic, bioelectric, biomagnetic, catalytic, high-frequency, vibratory, superpotent entities of quasi-material, quasi-etheric nature belonging to the 4th and 5th dimensions of being. As such, they can be further categorized as fructogens, qualigens, and dynogens, which respectively represent those subtle energies whose function is to enhance the fructification, fructogens, the generation of quality, qualigens, and the amplification of immaterial energies, dynogens. According to their function or location, these may be male or female in nature. If by means of the appropriate angle, we concentrate the ethereal elements or ethnicities into suitably dosed mixture of the 3 groups of substances, then we are presented with the natural formation of protein. In order that the process should produce the desired effect, it is very important that we pay strict attention to the different properties and the tensions existing between water and air. Therefore, we have to organize pressure and suction in a proper directionally alternating rhythm, which from a physical point of view are actually forms of heat and cold. This is enough to produce any desired quantity of protein artificially, but in the way that it happens in nature. In this way, proteinic substances can be produced in their solid, liquid, and gaseous form. Consequently, there are also water eggs, air eggs, and earth eggs. Air eggs produce water eggs produce earth, and earth eggs produce energy eggs. I'll repeat that. Air eggs produce water eggs produce earth eggs produce energy eggs, or dynagens. With these energy eggs, we are thus presented with the possibility of producing a flowing movement of energy, space energy propulsion, which is actually within the constitution of such eggs, is therefore already within our grasp. These energy eggs are themselves nourished by the substances of the air. That is, a vacuum is formed when we set this process in motion. This vacuum, however, is totally different from the nothing that science seeks to describe as zero. Those entities or magnitudes hitherto considered to be virtual or marginal will become the actual causes from which can be derived not only any desired equivalent factor, but also significant elemental forces as well, once the dosing and organization of these dangerous opposites is understood and they are brought into rhythmically oscillating motion. Since pressure and suction are constantly in an opposing mechanical and physical state of unstable equilibrium, then all we have to do is organize the rhythm. We are thus presented with a ceaseless motion that constantly increases. This is a mystical phenomenon, today quite inconceivable, but which nevertheless is what the natural motion we can see and detect all around us. If oxygen is infused into water indirectly, then water will become colder. If carbon dioxide is absorbed by water indirectly, then the water will become colder. For every 1 degree Celsius that the water is cooled, the volume of its contained gases is reduced by 1/273. Cooling water transforms its gases into volumeless substances. The juvenile energy dissolves metallic and mineral solids, through which heat becomes bound, which in turn absorbs the heavy oxygen. And the carbon content of winter water is minimal, and hence there are little absorption of oxygen. On the other hand, winter water also becomes lighter and absorbs atmospheric gases, when for lack of suitable minerals it cannot obtain carbonic acid from the earth. Spring water high in carbones does not freeze at -32 degrees Celsius. Such water takes up oxygen in summer and becomes colder under high external temperatures. Under certain circumstances, carbon dioxide is heavier than both air and water, whereas oxygen under certain circumstances is lighter than air and heavier than water. The underlying causes of this remarkable variation in weight is the degree of excitation of the gas. This is why the weight of the water constantly changes, and it is important to differentiate between specific and absolute variations in weight. The higher the water rises in the spring conduit, the heavier the minerals it precipitates. The more it unburdens itself, the denser it becomes, and the more easily it rises. Water is energetically discharged by iron gills and in turbines. That is to say, it loses its dynagens, becomes unipolar, and in the lower reaches replaces its lost dynagens from the surrounding soil. This is why such water destroys its channels. The water becomes an animalistic magnet, as it were, and in eviscerating the soil of its dynagens, it also rips soil particles away. In winter, the water attracts aeriform substances because it is element hungry. In this high state of tension, however, it is unable to metabolize them and therefore becomes lighter. On the other hand, the atmosphere can also attract water if the water is terrestrially overcharged. When vapor rises under certain conditions of extreme cold, however, this is conditioned by the water's inner atomic charge. Water changes its boiling and freezing point according to its inner state of tension. Water is no lifeless mass, but the blood of the earth, which comes into being and disappears through energetic interactions. Trees synthesize water, hence no forest, no water. The latter is the product of radiant emissions, which are instrumental in forming the transmuting medium at the root tip. This protoplasm, erroneously called a suction cup, can be seen with the naked eye on every root tip of a forest tree. With illumination, it collapses and disappears. The formation of sap is also the result of radiation and thus has nothing to do with any mechanical suction or pressural activity. The same is true for our blood circulation and the upwelling of spring water. If water is devoid of its inner atomic energies, it is unable to rise. This also applies to the tractive force and the deposition of sediment. Under-energized blood leads to accretions in or sclerosis of the conducting vessels. The supply of energy water alleviates or removes this affliction. All kidney diseases are to be attributed to de-energizing phenomena. For this reason, kidney stones are immediately expelled if noble water is drunk.